They say personality defines who we are. But what if the very trait you value most is quietly destroying your relationships? A recent psychological review shows that certain personality traits, when left unchecked, are linked to higher levels of anxiety, emotional disconnection, and even broken families. But decades ago, Carl Jung warned us about something even more dangerous. He believed that the real threat isn't the personality trait itself, it's what we refuse to see about it. Today, we're diving into one of the most overlooked ideas in modern psychology, the deadliest personality trait, according to Carl Jung. It's not arrogance, it's not selfishness. It's something deeper and far more destructive. You may have seen it in others. You may have felt its damage, or it might be hiding in you right now without you even knowing it. Stay with me. Before we uncover the trait, we need to understand the man who first warned us about it. Carl Gustav Jung. Born in 1875, Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist, a thinker, and a pioneer of the deep mind. He wasn't just interested in treating symptoms, he wanted to understand the human soul. While Sigmund Freud focused on repressed desires, Jung went further. He believed that every person carries not just a conscious self, but a vast, unconscious world beneath the surface. A world filled with symbols, archetypes, and patterns passed down through generations. He introduced concepts like the persona, the anima and animus, and most importantly, the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. To Jung, these weren't just theories. They were the key to human transformation. He believed that to become whole, a person must face the darkness within themselves, not suppress it. And within this inner world of archetypes and hidden motives, Jung began to observe something disturbing, a pattern in people who suffered deeply, yet never seemed to understand why. It wasn't intelligence they lacked. It wasn't love. It wasn't even empathy. It was awareness, self-awareness. The ability to see themselves clearly, without distortion, denial, or ego. This is where our journey begins. Not with what we show the world, but with what we hide from it. Because for Jung, the deadliest personality trait wasn't about how you acted. It was about what you refused to see in yourself. We often hear things like, everyone has strengths and weaknesses. No personality trait is truly bad. It just depends on how you use it. That sounds reasonable. And in many cases, it's true. Introverts bring depth. Extroverts bring energy. Thinkers bring clarity. Feelers bring compassion. But Jung saw something most people miss. He believed that even so-called positive traits can become dangerous when they're used to hide from the truth. For example, confidence becomes arrogance. Kindness becomes submission. Logic becomes emotional coldness. And the worst part? We often don't even realize it's happening. Why? Because we've been taught to identify with our strengths, to hold on to them as proof of who we are. So we ignore the damage they cause when left unchecked. Carl Jung challenged this. He believed that what makes a personality trait deadly isn't how it looks from the outside. It's how unconscious it is. How much of ourselves we bury in order to protect the mask. Think about it. The people who do the most harm, to themselves and others, often think they're doing the right thing. They think they're being good, honest, strong, or loving. But beneath it all is a refusal to face something deeper. So here's the question. What happens when a personality trait becomes a shield? When it blocks us from growth, from connection, from reality itself? According to Carl Jung, that's when a trait becomes dangerous. That's when it becomes deadly. To understand what Jung believed was the deadliest personality trait, we first have to explore how he viewed personality itself. Jung didn't divide people into types to label them. He created personality categories to show how people perceive and interact with the world. And more importantly, how they protect themselves from parts of reality they can't face. Let's start with two of his most famous categories, introversion and extroversion. An introvert turns inward, toward thoughts, reflection, and the inner world. They often avoid noise, attention, and confrontation. But when distorted, introversion can become isolation, a detachment from reality that leads to anxiety, overthinking, and emotional paralysis. An extrovert, on the other hand, turns outward. They seek people, activity, stimulation. But taken too far, this becomes distraction, an addiction to constant interaction to avoid facing the self. Jung also outlined 4 core functions of personality: thinking, feeling, sensation, intuition. Each of us tends to favor 1 or 2. Thinkers may rely on logic and analysis. Feelers move through empathy and emotional resonance. Sensors trust what they can see and touch. Intuitives follow patterns, symbols, and deeper meaning. But again, these traits can become dangerous when we rely on them exclusively. A person who identifies only with logic might reject all emotion, even their own. They may dismiss pain, ignore connection, and avoid vulnerability, calling it weakness. But what they're really doing is disowning a vital part of themselves. Someone who over-identifies with feeling may drown in emotional reactions. They might avoid hard decisions or uncomfortable truths to keep the peace, even when it's toxic. And here's the twist Jung warned us about. The more we identify with one trait, the more likely we are to repress its opposite. This creates a split, not just in personality, but in the soul. Let's say a person prides themselves on being nice. They're agreeable. They avoid conflict. They always try to make others comfortable. But under the surface, they're seething. They feel used. They say yes when they mean no. They give too much, hoping to be loved in return. Eventually, that suppressed part, the shadow, comes out. It leaks through sarcasm. It explodes in anger. Or it turns inward as self-hate. And the person says, "I don't know what came over me." But Jung would say, "It was always there. You just refused to look." This is why Jung's work focused so deeply on integration. He believed that every personality trait must be balanced with its opposite. Only then can we become whole. Let's take a deeper example. A person who sees themselves as morally righteous, always good, always virtuous, may become blind to their own cruelty. They may judge others harshly. They may try to control the people they love, convinced it's for their own good. But really, they're just projecting their own inner darkness outward, unable to admit they're capable of anything less than perfect. This isn't just unhealthy, it's dangerous. Because people like this often hurt others while still believing they're the hero. And this is where we start to see what Jung feared most. It's not a specific trait like anger, arrogance, or pride. It's the lack of awareness behind those traits. The unwillingness to see the full truth of who we are. That's what makes a trait deadly. Not because it's loud, not because it's visible, but because it hides in plain sight, beneath the image we've created of ourselves. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." In other words, as long as we refuse to face the parts of ourselves we don't like, we'll keep repeating the same patterns, same mistakes, same pain. So ask yourself, which traits do you cling to? Which ones do you use to define who you are? And what might be hiding underneath? The person who seems confident may be terrified of being seen as weak. The person who's always helpful may feel invisible. The person who's always calm may be burying a lifetime of rage. Jung didn't want us to abandon our personalities. He wanted us to expand them, to integrate what we fear, to balance who we are with what we've been avoiding. Because only then can we access true maturity. Only then can we stop projecting, blaming, reacting, and start choosing. So, what is the deadliest personality trait according to Carl Jung? It's not anger, not narcissism, not even pride. It's unconsciousness, not in the medical sense, but in the psychological sense, the refusal to see what's inside you. Jung believed the most destructive people aren't the ones who know they're dangerous. They're the ones who believe they're completely good, completely right, completely self-aware, when they are not. He warned us about the person who hides behind a personality mask, the one who clings to a false image, whether it's the nice guy, the smart one, the selfless one, or the spiritual one. Because the stronger that mask becomes, the more shadow builds behind it. And eventually it leaks. It destroys relationships. It sabotages careers. It turns inward as depression, projection, anxiety, even cruelty. Unconsciousness is dangerous because it gives us certainty without clarity. It says, "This is just who I am," without ever asking why, without ever challenging that belief. The unconscious person sees no reason to grow, because in their mind they're already awake. And here's the most frightening part. You don't know you're unconscious while it's happening. You only see it in hindsight, after the damage is done, after the relationship ends, after the breakdown, the burnout, the regret. Jung wasn't afraid of imperfection. He was afraid of the person who denies their imperfection, the one who builds their identity around what's easy to love and buries the rest, because that buried part doesn't stay buried. It acts out, it chooses partners, it shapes your fears, and it writes your story without your consent. So when Jung talked about personality, he wasn't just giving us labels. He was giving us a warning. What you refuse to face will control you, and the longer you ignore it, the more destructive it becomes. So what have we really uncovered? Carl Jung didn't teach that certain personality types are evil or broken. He didn't say introverts are better than extroverts, or that thinkers are wiser than feelers. What he warned us about was far more subtle. and far more dangerous. He warned us about the blindness we carry. The way we cling to the parts of ourselves we're proud of, while denying the parts that scare us. Because when we only identify with our strengths, when we use personality as a mask, when we label our behavior without ever questioning it, we fall asleep to our deeper self. We become unconscious. And in Jung's eyes, that was the deadliest trait of all. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's silent. It erodes truth, distorts love, and prevents real transformation. The solution? Awareness, reflection, integration. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What part of me have I been ignoring? What am I hiding behind my strengths? What story am I telling that no longer serves me?" Because the moment you make the unconscious conscious, you stop reacting and start choosing. That's when real change begins. That's when personality stops being a cage and becomes a doorway to something deeper. If this video made you pause, if it made you reflect on your own traits, your own shadows, then you're already doing what most people avoid. You're waking up. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think is the deadliest personality trait in today's world? Is it arrogance? Denial? The fear of being vulnerable? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your voice adds to this conversation, and chances are, someone reading your words might feel a little less alone. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe to Intuitra. This channel exists for one reason: to speak the truths that most people keep buried. To explore the mind, the soul, and the struggles we're all trying to understand. And if you're ready for more, stay with us until then. Keep questioning. Keep growing. And remember, the parts you fear the most are often the ones trying hardest to set you free.